Let me give you this particular story. I remember years ago when I was still, I was a child, when you're crossing to adolescence, right? So I usually pick things on the floor that I feel they are valuable, and I'll store them in a particular jar, whether screws, bolts, pin, magnet. I'll be storing them for no reason. I just picked interest in it. Whether it was testosterone that was speaking, I do not know. And trust me, I didn't study engineer at the end of the day. But I was just picking those things. I don't know whether those things has happened to you before, Has it ever happened to you before, whether you are picking things and you don't know why you are picking them? But suddenly there was one day, this was even years after I've picked plenty things. We're now in need, we're fixing a particular device. We're now in need for some, screws and magnets. And we were looking for it. Then I remembered should I call it my junk jar? Then I poured it out. We got everything that we needed fully. Everything. I don't know, have you ever saved something? Maybe you were picking something and you just were storing them somewhere. It felt useless or dirty or disorganizing your space. And suddenly, one day, somehow, somewhere, you now discover that thing that you were storing actually has a significant contribution to what you are building or what you are doing. And you see, that's the same thing I realize about life, that everything is valuable. Everything. There is nothing in this world that is invaluable. Everything is valuable. Even to the stubborn grass that sometimes we weed away from in our compounds and on our farms. Everything has value. What we need to sit down to do is to be able to research deeply into every experience, into every chaos, into every joy, into every happiness, the essence of these things, and we'll find out the value in them. So do not close out even your failures. I'm telling you, do not underestimate your failures. Do not underestimate anything that has happened to you in time past or that is happening to you right now. You might not see the value today, but a time is coming where you will sit back and say, thank God for this experience. Thank God I failed. It has taught me to be better. That failure has positioned me to be better. I'll give you another story to help you better. So, some time ago, some years back, I started a particular organization. Okay. And while we're building the organization, we poured a lot of work into it. I made some mistakes though, and those mistakes led to the closure of that organization. And I was pained. For years, I was unsettled. I felt like a failure. And I remember, even within those years, a mentor reached out to me and be like, oh, don't think you have failed. This thing is part of an experience. And brought me on board, into his own organization. And we're working together. Even as at that, I felt like a failure. So I wasn't even giving my best. I wasn't contributing my best. But do you know what happened at the end of the day? I discovered that the way people started seeing my friends and my contemporaries that were doing things together, it changed. All of a sudden, they weren't looking at me in the status of my strengths. They were looking at me in the status of my mentor, his resources, and his organization. Suddenly, they would just be like, wow, you are not in our level anymore. You are now working with this person. You are now doing things with this person. If I have not failed, my status will not have changed. If I had not failed, my status will not have changed. So celebrate your failures. Celebrate those times you failed. Because out of every mess, I say it again, anywhere in the world, there is always a message. So do not underestimate the hurdles you are flying. Do not close out on anyone and write anybody off that the person is completely useless. Even a rejected stone can still serve as a capstone that will save the entire pyramid from falling apart. So recognize value.